Seen some people come in. All right,
There you
come on in, y'all. Come on in.
go.
We're gonna figure this out together.
Yeah, we definitely figuring this out because this is a
Yeah,
process.
yeah, trying to figure this out to get used to it. Shout out to everybody that's coming in. As y'all come in, about to have a great conversation with my brother from One Mike Black History, Michael Motley. Um, make sure y'all, first off, make sure you are subscribed to both of us.
Yeah,
We would greatly appreciate that. The
absolutely.
subscription is free, and if you really want to take it up, you can go
Yeah.
ahead and, you know what I'm saying? In this
Donate a little
climate,
something.
a little something, because in this climate, you see what's happening to the truth
Yeah,
tellers. We need your support.
yeah, it is
Um,
crazy out here.
and also too in the chat, let us know where you're tuning in from. You know what I mean? So look, man, I want to just kind of give a background of, in this space when you are, I don't really like saying content creator that
Yeah,
much, but I know that's how people view us.
yeah,
We are educators in a space where we use content to get this message out. If this
absolutely.
was 30, 40 years ago, we'd probably be on the public access channel, man.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
we, like if we were lucky, right? And I
Yeah,
think the benefit of having these phones, these devices, we were able to just take control of telling our stories,
absolutely.
without having to go through a middleman or something like that, man. So I think like most folks, man, I came across, your content on probably Instagram, and I love the focus that you have on whenever I can learn something from somebody or
Right.
just a different perspective on something, I'm always intrigued. I mean, truthfully, bro, especially on Substack, I share your like your daily synopsis
Ah,
in
yeah,
my group chat, man, with my kids, bro, because like it's important for me to be able to deliver that to them quickly, but then
yeah,
also give me something to talk to them about. I'm looking at your site now, bro. I mean, you got a story recently, how a barber stole the blueprint from
yeah,
millionaires. You
yeah,
know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, I mean, this is stuff that like I'm not even, the town where white people were illegal. That's why I'm
Yeah.
telling y'all, make sure you are subscribed.
I it is difficult, especially especially with Facebook, with YouTube. YouTube, there's this line between being sensational and clickbaity and like, "Hey, this is a real story. This really happened." Like the town of Mount Bayou in, Louisiana, that's a real place that
Yeah.
the early charters banned the sale of land to white people. You know what I'm
Mm,
saying? So, like, when I say that something's illegal, this is not it's not it's not clickbait. Like, I'm gonna give you what you asked for. You came here for this. This is a real story about a real place. And that's what I enjoy. Recently, what I've been trying to do is trying to move away, and you could kind of see this in my notes, kind of move away from like the trauma and more like not really like you could tell stories, but I want to talk about how people uh reacted to that situation, how they were
mm,
faced with a problem and how we moved within that problem. Because when you look at modern history, they always frame it as if we just woke up one day, Emmett Till was murdered, and the next day we decided we were going to protest, and that was the modern civil rights movement. And really, we've been fighting for 400 years. This is a continuous effort. This has been a continuous effort. And I want to showcase that effort in these many stories, or at least if I'm not teaching you something, I want you to see someone famous and then view them in a completely different way. So, like,
yeah.
recently, I talked about, it was Jack Robinson's birthday. Like, instead of talking about him as his integration into baseball and things like that, I wanna talk about how he founded the Freedom National Bank, which was
Mm.
one, I didn't even know that. But I
I didn't either.
so, like, you wanna see people in a different light or at least show people how we reacted to, difficult situation. We were faced with a problem, and this is how these people dealt with that problem, whether that's Mound Bayou or, North Carolina Mutual in Durham, North
Mhm.
Carolina, or the Safe Bus Company, all these different ways. So it's about not really moving away from negativity, but focusing our efforts on our reaction to systemic racism, basically.
Straight up, man. That's always like one of my philosophies when I teach this stuff is I think it's very important that we always provide people with, especially younger folks, the solutions, the people
Right,
who were creating the solutions, right?
right. Right.
I think the story that people most often share, of course, just in general American history, is how Mr. Rogers, like his mom said, find the helpers, find the helpers.
Yeah.
We have never passively accepted what happened to us. We've always been agitating and
Right.
fighting back, and it's important for us to understand that, and of course, people outside the community. I don't even think like people truly understand the depths of what we have endured in this country, and you
No.
see the shame folks have just by removing these exhibits to slavery. Because one of the things I think about oftentimes, bro, is we know cameras don't become widespread until like the end of enslavement. I
Yeah.
think that's very ironic, right? Like towards the,
Absolutely.
and if we go on base, let's just say the 1850s, right?
Right.
You only then really get 15 years of something that was here for 200, 300 years priorly. Imagine if we were able to truly see, like we know the
Have
body
that.
cam footage is horrible to us, what we see today. But 200 years ago, when folks, there was no accountability,
Right.
you can't even fathom. So
Yeah.
so look, but though I want to focus back on what you do, man, because and for the people listening right now, check out onemichistory.com, and I'm sure that's also the same thing on YouTube. I
Yeah.
think I think what's dope, man, about what we are doing as Black history educators in the space is, truthfully, this space was not made for us to do this. When
No.
I first heard about stuff like TikTok and things like that, man, it was to me like my when I was in the classroom, my students were telling me about the trendy dances and stuff. I didn't even think I could exist on that space until I saw some educators who I still follow to this day who were making content with the green screens. Brothers like Coach Curtis on TikTok and
Yeah.
anti-social studies, Emily on TikTok. Like I say, you know what, maybe I can give this a shot too. So for me, the followings that we can have from this, to me,
Yeah.
if you adjust it for inflation, like
Right.
bro,
Right.
you got on YouTube, you got 200 and something thousand people.
Yeah.
Two YouTube, I think YouTube is the most difficult to grow on. I think Instagram might be number two. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
Substack probably in there now too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you got the plaque is probably behind you right now, actually. So like, and I think for
It,
you to be focusing,
it is too.
I thought I was like,
Yeah,
so
it is. I like to have it like right over the
you
shoulder. There
gotta
you go.
make sure people see that.
Yeah. Right.
Humble brag, man.
Right.
I think that's phenomenal though, because we ain't focusing on the like the I mean, and the trends. Everybody got their lane, but people say, "Oh man, I can't stand history. Oh man, this stuff is boring." The proof, bruh. The
Yeah.
proof. 200,000 on education to me is like a meal on YouTube for anybody else, right? So, like, what inspired you to get into this? Were you in the education field priorly? Are you self-taught? How did that work?
Wow, I am primarily self-taught. Like as a trade, I work in IT, so I'm a cloud engineer. But I've always had like a
Mm.
passion for history. Like it's funny, It's out. This is small tangent. It's funny. My dad is big into history, and it's kind of where that stemmed from. And we'll talk and have discussions, and on a regular basis, he's like, "Hey, I want to come on your podcast. Remember podcast? We could be two mics." Like, absolutely not. Absolutely not, sir. You cannot come on the podcast. You are unreal. You're not that he's unreliable, but he is.
You got to pre-record that one.
Yeah, yeah. Like he'll say some stuff, and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. You can't tell people that. That's too much. Some information. You got to drip information to them.
Right,
Anyway,
right.
I was working on 2019. I was doing like one of those roundtable discussion podcasts, and it was fun. We were talking, current stuff, but it didn't really resonate with me. I wasn't feeling it. I was tired, and I just felt like there's more that we could do. There's more that we could do together. Like it's got to be more than this out here. And I had a friend, he was a white guy who did an episode for his podcast about the Tulsa massacre. And I
Mm,
heard it and I was like, yo, this is dope. I want to do I want to do that. But also, I feel like this story should be told by somebody that looks like us. This is our story. Not that is no shade to him because he did a wonderful job. But I just feel like this is our story. So one of us should be telling it.
yeah,
So I decided to be that person. Be the person that you want to see in this. Like if you decide that you want you think there should be more black curators, why not you? So I went and started working on my 10,000 hours. It was very big
mm,
difficult in the beginning to just get used to telling these stories and writing scripts. But as you work through this, it becomes easier and easier and easier, and you feel comfortable in your space and how I'm telling the stories, and you kinda like I don't consider myself to be an historian. I like to say an expert. I'm a history expert,
Mm,
but this is kinda what I grew into is a
yeah.
person who is like, if you ask me something or you wanna have a discussion or you wanna talk about W.E.B. Du Bois or Booker T. Washington or their beef or you wanna talk about the 20th century Black experience, I'm so I'm so deep in it, I can talk about whatever, we can do this. So, like,
Mm,
without a degree, I still become an expert, and it's kinda what I do. My wife hates it. My
yeah.
wife is bored with it. She's like, "You tell me another history lesson. One more."
No, people don't realize, like, when you love this, bro. You know, my wife the same thing when I start bringing stuff over to my kids. Like, I might all of a sudden, did you know? You know, and
Right,
my
right, right.
friends will make fun of me sometimes. I am that dude. We driving. You know that building over there. I mean, to me, we are our elders in training. I don't know if you realize it now, but we're gonna be the OGs that people come to for this knowledge because especially the times we are living through, man, are completely unprecedented. But through that, it makes our work that much valuable because there was a time where if you weren't getting this in school and you weren't getting it in your community, you
Get
didn't
it.
really you gotta
Mhm.
wait, you wouldn't
A
get it. Like
and
you
this
can
is
log.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. No, go ahead,
No,
bro.
I this is why this is so important because there are a lot of things that I was taught in school that now I have learned, and not that they were wrong, but they don't tell a complete story, or they just omit things. So, like, I don't feel like school was necessarily lying to you, but there are complete sections of things that were just completely omitted from these textbooks. I live in North Carolina, and it wasn't until recently that I found out about the Wilmington massacre of 1898.
Mm,
And I live here. I've vacationed in
mm,
Wilmington multiple times. You can rest
mm,
assured there is no ne'er plaque there
mm,
about this sort of thing. And you kinda so you have to, like, not only teach people, but, like, these things happen, this is important, you should understand this, but also how they dealt with that. Because when you deal with these unprecedented times, this is how they protest. When we talk about the Greensboro 4, I did this the other day. We talk about, like, they sat down at lunch counter. This was an operation. This was an
mm,
infiltration. We understood that the way to hit you, that you're not gonna just grow a conscience. So we hit you in your pockets. Suddenly integration doesn't feel that bad.
yeah. You know what I gather from that too, man, based on what you're describing is like history is a weapon, bro. And I think that's why like there's a concerted effort to again to sanitize a lot of things because they know that's the foundation of how society thinks about what they're enduring and what they are living through.
Right,
I think that there's a reason why they got kids saying the pledge starting at 5 and stuff like that because by the time you get to a certain age it's already ingrained in you. I was just talking to a sister who told me her mom had her taking public speaking and in kindergarten, and now she can do it just like that because they understand if we condition you, if we teach that second language early, by the time you 13, 14, you've already adopted it. You figured it
right,
out. This, I mean, to live in a place and not know about that, bro. Like, but I think about where I live now outside of Chicago. I'm in Joliet, and
yeah,
the years I taught there, I didn't know about something called the Brown Book, and I'm partnering with a local professor in university. Shout out to Dr. To Neil Nicole Allen, because we are shedding light on something called the Brown Book. That was a database essentially. It was a book that put
right.
together all the black-owned businesses in that area, all the
Oh,
social clubs, all the black history and that existed. It was published in 1959. I had no idea, bro. Well, I'm teaching about Black Wall Street, which for me I didn't learn about until my third year teaching on the meme, and I had to do the research because I was
right,
like, this can't be true. This
right,
can't
right,
because why didn't I know about this, right?
right.
But little did I know it was they were essentially all over the country.
Yes,
Like,
yes,
so I'm in the classroom, bro, and I didn't even have the knowledge to teach my students that around the corner, literally from where you are now, there existed a black business district, a black community. And things like that can just change. It can help you reimagine who you are now because you think differently of who you were then,
right.
which means you're going to do something different moving forward. Like restoring the memory. It's almost like
Yeah,
we collectively in this country, it's the amnesia, collective
yeah,
amnesia. And bro, like if you don't have memory, something as simple as finding your keys can stop you from where you're trying to
Right.
go that day.
Exac
You know,
exactly.
come on, man.
Exactly.
I'm gonna have to say that one again. That was a bar right there. Ain't bro, ain't nothing worse than you trying to rush out somewhere and
Man,
you
you
like,
can't find
man,
your
where
keys.
in the world did I put my keys at?
My it's funny you mentioned that because I lose my wallet so much. My wife was like, "You need to put an air tag on it." "You want me to put an
Bro,
air tag on my wallet? Who do you think I
bro,
how do you
I'm
think I
I'm
am?"
I'm about to tell you this, and I probably shouldn't even put myself on blast like this because if my wife sees, she gonna hang this over my head. My wife got me a wallet one time that had an air tag, bro. I ain't never even installed the air tag.
Ah,
Lo and behold, it I had a few scares, but you know what I'm saying? But that speaks to the importance, bro, of just understanding who we are in this moment. So tell me this too, as you are a creator, I know there's sometimes a divide between the content that your supporters like the most and the content that you enjoyed making the most. What has been like some of your most popular content, and
oh, wow.
is that always and also your favorite too?
Not really, because what this is one of the things, and man, wow, you hit the nail on the head. Because one of the hardest parts about doing this is what they like and what I like, and they don't
Mhm.
always align. And it feels
Yeah,
like you're constantly trying to find this divide on what I'm happy with and what the people want. You
yeah.
know, because at the end of the day, they have to learn something. It has to be fun. It has to be entertaining. And a lot of times
Mhm.
that's just not like those two things don't always coalesce. So like the
Yeah.
video that's the most popular is the one about fried chicken, which is like super ironic that it's fried chicken. But also
Yeah,
like I want to frame this like, once again, I wanna frame this in a way that you should never be embarrassed to eat fried chicken. Like, you know, have those
yeah,
things where like, "Hey, I don't wanna eat fried chicken in front of white folks."
yeah,
No,
right,
eat
right.
fried chicken. This is us. The people who frame this as a way that you should be sad or feel bad or, you know, like you should be tap dancing for fried chicken, that's them. That's their problem. This is not
Bro,
your
they make
problem.
they make us feel bad, then steal the recipe. Like, how you gonna make me feel bad about eating watermelon, bro? That's one of the healthiest foods.
Watermelon is a great example of this. Watermelon was us what ooh, was us attempting to sell watermelon and have our own agency and do our own thing. And that's when they started to say, "Oh, we eat watermelon so much
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they one guy had to have surgery because he had a blockage in his stomach." This is all the kind of
Come on,
things,
man.
newspaper things about a guy who stole watermelon. This is where this comes from because it comes from Black independence. It's our
Mhm.
timid Black independence, and then now, oh, we want to reframe it as, oh, all they do is eat watermelon all day and sit
Right,
and be lazy, you know, and eat fried
right,
chicken. Matter of fact, I think
right.
like what's that movie?
The Birth of a Nation?
Yes, there you go,
Yeah,
my man.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Birth of a Nation. They had us sitting there in the
yeah,
House of Representatives eating watermelon, eating fried
yeah,
chicken. Like that is
yeah.
ingrained in the public consciousness, but that's not who we are. But on the flip side, I love fried chicken.
I mean,
I love
like,
fried chicken.
like yeah, because even that, like, again, make us feel bad, steal the recipe, and start
Mhm.
a national chain of restaurants based on what we taught y'all to do.
Yeah,
Like, who that eats meat does not like fried chicken?
right.
You
And it
trying to make me feel bad about going to Harold's getting a six piece.
eg um, man, it made me think about Freddie Gibbs. He had a song called Heroes. Um Barbecue is a great example of this. Barbecue
Mm,
wasn't created by Black people, it was, you know, Taino people. We borrowed it from the Taino people, they was already putting meat on racks, but
yeah,
we took what you were doing and made it a hot song and put our
right,
spices
yeah,
and put it ingrown pits, where the idea of pit masters comes from, and
mm,
then there was a point in during the 1800s where a proper barbecue had to have a Black person. Like, you
mm,
had to have a Black person and his team working on this. But
mm,
today, when you see it, what is it? You
yeah,
took not only did you take what we were doing, but you made it something completely different. If you looked at a barbecue from outside, you would think that this was a white American
yeah.
invention. You would
Oh,
never
yeah.
know if you didn't know the history of it.
Oh, they sanitize it, you know what
They
I'm saying?
completely.
The idea of the pit master in the suburbs and even with,
Right.
like, some of the names of, the barbecue sauces or who they put on there, then it be
Yeah.
owned by somebody white. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I had come across recently, that Sweet Baby Ray's was actually owned by somebody white.
Yes. That
Now
hurt.
now
That hurt
now y'all
my
know when you hear a name like
soul.
Sweet Baby Ray's, you think that's a brother.
Yeah.
Like, stop playing with me.
That hurts my soul that that's the case, 'cause I love me some Sweet Baby Ray's, and it makes sense though. There's a lot of
Yeah,
things, a lot of our world is like that. It's an attempt to try to, co-opt black people or put black faces in front of us, and even,
yeah.
when you look at someone like Aunt Jemima or,
Mhm.
Uncle, what's
Yep,
his
yep.
name? Creamery
Uncle
guy,
Remus, Uncle
Uncle
Remus, right?
Remus. I'm about to call him
Yeah.
Uncle Ruckus. Uncle Remus. All those guys they weren't even designed for us. They were designed to make
Yeah,
white folks feel comfortable with our face. We were
right.
supposed to comfort them and docile, but they also knew that we had this was a recipe. If we were on the face of it, this is good, but also I
Yep,
want you to feel
yep,
comfortable with a black face. You know
yep.
what I'm saying?
'Cause they knew we were the ones primarily in the kitchen anyway, so, like, it brought some authenticity. I mean,
Yeah,
that's even the case with, like, jerk, right? In terms of, like, Taínos and
yeah,
African people coming together. I
yeah,
mean, so it's embedded, and I think that's one of the things I realized too about our ingenuity. We have perfected like the ideas, the creativity, but for so long we didn't have access to the patent office. And even for us culturally, bro, we don't always think of placing a monetary value with
yeah,
the things that we create because it's just us and community. It's
yeah.
just us being,
We are.
creative, and it's just who we are as people. But we live in a society, brother. They will take it.
Yeah.
You had a conversation with somebody, now it's a multi-billion-dollar company, man.
Yeah, and that I did an episode about woke, and I'm not gonna talk about, like, the history of it, but there's this piece
Yeah.
in it where this black guy works for the New York Times, and the piece it's called, "If You Woke, You Can Dig It," or something to that effect, but it's not really
Mhm.
about woke, it's about how our language is co-opted by other people. He was specifically talking about, like, how the current slang of the time and beatniks were
Mhm.
co-opting the slang of black jazz musicians and
Mhm.
how if you don't guard your slang, they will steal it and take it and bastardize it. And
Mm,
that article resonates with me because it's not just about, slang, it's about anything black culture-wise, whether that's
mm,
black music, black food, black anything. If you don't
mm,
guard it, if you don't gatekeep that stuff, what will happen is they
mm,
will take the pieces of you that are palatable to the rest of the world and remove you from it.
mm,
Remove you from it,
mm,
and then it will be like you were never even there. That is the history of country music. The country music is basically Negro spirituals, us singing songs. One day they decided, you know what? We can't sell black people on the face of this music, so we're gonna create 2 different charts, one called the Negro list and one called the current Billboard list. It was the official list, and you know what happens? It's like we were never even there. 50 years
mm.
later, you don't
And then
even know that it was a
you make us feel like we guessed. Like
right.
you make it seem like we are the alternative music, bro. Like they made a new category for Beyonce, like because when Beyonce getting it, you already know she gonna shut it down. They made a
Right.
whole new category. I was watching the Grammys, bro. And I didn't even know they got different categories under country. It was like contemporary country.
Yeah,
And I think Jelly Roll had won. And we already know, like, again, that aesthetic of shout out to Jelly Roll and all the stuff he's done too with the weight loss and everything. But also too understanding he like Post Malone started within hip hop
yeah,
first and then
yeah,
used that as a springboard to catapult,
yeah.
his career and
You see that
everything.
you see that a lot
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And I think when I look at that, I even think of like how our cult well, it's all our culture, but the one that we are forward facing the most in still is hip hop. It's just all together.
yeah,
And you can't tell me like I'm seeing a category with Kendrick and they got, Clips and I think
yeah,
Glorilla was in there and everything. And there are different types of hip hop. Hip hop is 50 something years old, and I would argue older than that. You know what I'm saying? If they got a contemporary category, why is it that I mean, you got folks that will say, oh, Chris Brown, the rapper. Like, bro, like this is not the he can spit, but this is different. And
This
and all
is wow, that's such a great point because I don't know if it was Killer Mike. It was one of the older rappers, and this is what I listen to. Like,
yeah.
I'm
Yeah, you
not
gotta be
listening to
my
drill
age.
rap. Yeah, I had to listen to my age. I'm listening to rappers who
Yeah.
are 35 plus, and that's where I am
You
in my
said
life.
North Carolina, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, so J. Cole Friday, bro. I hope you a J.
Yes.
Cole fan. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
yeah,
we
yeah,
good.
yeah. I
We
love I love some J. Cole. Matter of fact, as a North Carolinian, you kinda have to be, like, not just J.
yeah.
Cole, but, like, J. Cole, Little Brother, even Petey Pablo. Like, there's
Oh
no
yeah,
disrespect to
little
Pablo.
bro.
We
Forgot
love we
about little
love
brother.
we love Little Brother. We love J. Cole because
Yeah,
they represent here. There's so few rappers. Like you live in
yeah,
Chicago. Like there are
yeah.
a lot of guys from
You know,
Chicago. You can pick and
you
choose, and you're like, nah, I
know,
don't mess with that guy.
it's a few.
Yeah. But here we got like it's like 1 or 2 of us. You got to represent those
Yeah,
guys hard because they don't
yeah,
it's not a whole lot of us. But I mean,
yeah,
to that point, I think it was Killer Mike who was saying that like why we should have a contemporary category. Like Killer Mike should not be in a Grammy category with, Glorilla. Like they're not the
yeah.
music
It's
not the
new,
same. Yeah, it's new, it's different. The people who listen to that don't listen to this. The people who like when
right?
Killer Mike won a Grammy, they're like, "Who is this old dude?" To me, that album is fire. This is
Yeah,
what I have in my rotation. But to
yeah.
you, at 25-year-old me, I would have never
Yeah,
would never listen
exactly.
to this.
And what's deep about hip hop too is, man, it reflects so much of the trauma that we've had to endure
Yeah,
because for a long time we were growing up, bro. You were they would make fun of you for being an older rapper. Like I remember
yeah,
Cameron making fun of Jay-Z for being like 35 and rapping
yeah,
still. Like, what's wrong with that, bro? Like,
yeah,
you never stop being a poet, but because of the trauma we've experienced and the low, life expectancies, and we know old Kanye said we never thought we'd make it past 25. But
yeah.
now we got like Nas is dropping classics, like you know what I'm saying right now. I mean, he's nearly 60 years old. You know what I
And
mean?
ain't
I'm
it
sure
wonderful? Ain't it wonderful?
bro, I love it, man. Especially
Yeah,
because Nas is my favorite. Like, as everybody would try to say, it was just a few ill man. No, bro, he went on a rampage. We
yeah,
need, I like the Jay Z that did 444. That's the rap I want to hear now. People like J. Cole, Kendrick, you know what I'm saying? People in
yeah,
my demographic. It's not too many that's in the teens and 20s I can relate to, but they should still, have their lane. And I think that's when we have to make sure that we continue to speak up for our art forms and a culture that we are still forward facing in. There's a nuance to this. That's why KRS-One takes it so serious. The brother wrote a dang, I think it was a hip hop Bible or something, man.
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
KRS-One don't play.
No, you
That,
don't.
but that's also why some of our great scholars in our hip hop community are professors. Lupe, for example. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? I know D1, who's out there promoting positivity, is a professor, for example. The stuff that we have learned, to your point of being self-taught, ain't something that you can truly make a cut and dry curriculum after. They try to recreate it a lot, bro, but then you see once they kind of, co-opt it, it loses a lot of the flavor.
yeah. I mean, they'll
But
drain all the flavor out.
bruh, and that's what J. Cole said. What was that on Forest Hill Drives, man? It's like, yo, 50 years from now, because jazz, you think what's the white dude with the fro? I can't
Was
remember
it
his name.
Kenny
Uh
G?
Kenny G.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. He said something about that. And if we ain't careful in 50 years, the face of hip hop, you know what I mean? It might be
yeah.
Macklemore. No disrespect, because shout out to him for standing up and stuff like that, Palestine and everything. But like that can't be it. That just can't
No.
be it.
I mean, I blame social media for this a little bit because, what's my man from Grits and Biscuits, Grits and something,
Deontay Kyle, my boy.
Yeah, yeah.
Shout out to him.
He
Yeah.
talked
Mhm.
about, how we have to kick gatekeep. He was talking about hoodoo at the time and how we just be telling
Yeah.
people all our business, but they're not just with like that, like with everything.
Yeah.
We tell people too much, they know too
Mhm.
much, too comfortable in our culture. They wanna
Yeah.
mimic our culture, steal our videos, and they feel
Yeah.
very comfortable getting the answers. They'll just ask you, "What does this mean?" And you just tell them. You tell them you're too open with things. Some things need to be kept close. It need to be kept close.
Yeah.
Why these things are that way. And I'm not telling you to be nasty or to be mean to people. I just feel like we just need to gatekeep a little harder. Just
No,
gatekeep
that that
keep stuff a little close to your heart. You know what I'm saying? Don't
that
tell all
that's
the
real.
stuff.
No, that's real because they're like I'm a big proponent of men. Like there are certain conversations that we have to have, offline, of course, right?
Yeah,
And I think, but I'm gonna blame capitalism for this because, like, again, we don't come from a capitalist culture inherently. So when we talk about just having these conversations about things that are close to us, we don't think of, well, this could be profitable off of, this could
yeah,
become $1 billion industry, or this could become this. I mean, like Michael Jordan was just playing basketball,
yeah,
and somebody had to say, I can capitalize off of his
yeah.
image. Michael Jordan should be worth 20, $30 billion. You know what I'm saying?
It
He got enough, I'm sure, but the actual value he brought should have him in that top five sphere.
absolutely.
And I think, but also too, because social media is also us taking control and become so profitable, it's hard for us to say what should be contained. But we have a lot of conversations that we forget that other people are watching. I
Yes.
remember and I don't even want to. I probably shouldn't even mention this, but I just remember like even some trends on TikTok that people were like, "Hey, don't mention that. Don't say
Yeah,
too much." Certain things that we learned from our grandparents and elders. That was just a conversation we were having while we were over there for Sunday dinner. And it was meant, like I don't. Do we truly like when you think about stuff like the Montgomery bus boycott, for example, like you said, the Greensboro sit-ins, the network and communication strategies that they had to have was so intricate.
yeah.
I
And it was
I
no, no, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I'm just gonna say, like, the fact that we struggle with recreating movements like that while
With all the
having
communication in the world, right? With all the
bro,
ability to communicate in the world, we still struggle
have
with
you ever I'm sure you have, bro. The fact that Underground Railroad, Underground Railroad. Like William Steele didn't reveal that until slavery was over. The whole book he wrote about the Underground Railroad routes, and he was interviewing everybody that came to him in Philadelphia. He
yeah,
didn't release the secrets till after chattel enslavement ended. But then also too, I'm always just really curious about how many of these routes we have no idea about. It was underground. Like we don't have any idea how many people were actually lynched. It
it
wasn't supposed to be promoted for everybody. Like
it is,
we
because you mentioned that, I'm gonna cut you off. Just,
no, you good. Go ahead.
slight, uh, in Savannah, there's the, First African Baptist Church. It is it lays a claim with, like, 3 other churches as being, like, the oldest Black congregation in the United States. I think it was 1783, 1784, sometime around there. It's, super old. Anyway, inside the church is a, passage to the Underground Railroad. They know that it exists because
Mm,
the holes are there. They had, like, a secret sign. It would tell you, like, it's just, like, several holes, and if you don't know, you don't know. It
mhm,
looks like nothing. But
mm,
know, you know that this is a sign, it's a safe place. It's kinda like them signs that they put up for kids, like, "Hey, you can stop here if you're running away, you got a safe place." This is what this meant
yeah,
to enslaved people. Here's the
yeah,
thing, they don't know where the entrance is. They know that this is an Underground Railroad stop, but they have no idea where it
mm,
is in the building. They can't find it. To this day, it has been 200 plus years. And this church still have no idea how they got in, how they got out, where the route was. They just know that it existed. That's the stuff. That's the stuff that I'm talking about. That's
mm,
the history out there. We got so much history that people that exists and we don't even know. It be right in front of your face. I've gone to Savannah 2 times a year for like the last 8, 9 years, walk past this church every single day, had no idea, no clue. I had to go
mm,
and, like, find that stuff out myself, and this is the world that we live in, man.
yeah,
That agency, that stuff that we've done, it be little tidbits of information and history and life that just out there. You're like, "Oh, wow. I walk past that place every single day." Do you know how many this is another example, how many slave cemeteries, they just overgrown.
mm,
I had this thing, I wanted to go find one, I wanted to see it. I wanna
yeah,
lay eyeballs on my ancestors one day. Do you
mm,
know how impossible this is?
mm,
Like, they'd be like, "Hey, it's around this place." That little dot on the map be miles. You're like, "I don't know where
mm,
this thing is because it's
oh,
not like, they didn't take care
yeah,
of it. It's just a headstone
yeah,
and a tree in
yeah,
some trees in the forest somewhere. You have no idea.
yeah,
And that's just it you ride by it every day, and you have no idea, that your ancestors are sitting in the grave,
mm.
overgrown in trees because nobody cares but you.
Bro, I think about I reflect on that a lot, man. I mean, it was a video I did the other day about just even the trauma of the Middle Passage, man. We talking like millions,
Oh,
and I've never flown over the Atlantic, not yet, but like I just imagine like what that has to feel like. I mean, there
man,
are so many stories that we don't know about there because again, we're often uh the stories we learn are from the people who thought to document or had the privilege to document, right? Because there was a long time before we
history
could
told
even
by the winners. History told by the winners.
exactly. Like, so I mean, I think what can give people a proper perspective too is to consider that wherever you are in America, if you in America right now, you know what I mean? Like there were indigenous people.
Yeah,
Like your subdivision, your city, like
yeah.
even a city like New York that just seems like it's been there forever. No, no, no. Like the indigenous people lived there, were thriving. It wasn't just a bunch of wilderness like you expected in the places where it was. They were
And
cultivating and
when was
creating
the
and
last time you
keeping.
saw an indigenous person?
Bro, bro, you know what I'm saying? Like, bro, here's what's crazy about that. I learned this from a white guy one time. Rest in peace to Mr. Joe Balch. I was proctoring an exam one year, and he was a photography teacher, and he knew I taught history. And he told me this story about where I live in Joliet. It's a town nearby called Plainfield. And
Mhm.
he told me about, for one, there are indigenous mounds and around some of these cemeteries right now. Right now. And I looked it up, and it wasn't like an official story, but you even saw them say Indian mounds in these cemeteries. Then he told me about a street called Indian Boundary Road, and this street it's in the most suburbia,
Right.
Plainfield, Illinois, man. It's a majority white space, and it's a street, and it's diagonal. That kind of lets you know sometimes 'cause they didn't live on a grid.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
It
yeah.
made sense to them. So those streets that go on a diagonal pattern or they it kind of intersect, those are usually old indigenous routes that we just paved over. Well, not we, but you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the Indian Boundary Road signified an old broken treaty from I think the 17 or 1800s, where the indigenous people again they agreed because they thought they were being honorable, agreed with the colonizers to say we ain't gonna go past this line. So of course they didn't honor it because now it's a street
No.
and it's a YMCA and it's like, but you can still go there and it goes from this southwest suburb all the way through Chicago. So while you driving, when you cutting the grass, you like imagine what's under there, bro. Like imagine what.
It's so funny because it's stuff like that here too. Because I live near, Lumberton, and Lumberton is named after the Lumbee Indians of that area, and
Mm,
they just got recognition. I don't know if you
mm,
familiar with the story of the Lumbees, but for the years, the Lumbee were, they called them black. They said that because
mm,
they had intermingled, they were a combination of Native people and black people, and they would call them black, and they would fight against their their recognition, and specifically the
mm,
Eastern Band of Cherokee, because Cherokee is huge here in North
mhm,
Carolina, and they're like, "Bro, I don't know about these dudes." And even now, they still fight about them being recognized simply because
yeah,
they don't feel like they meet the criteria. But here's the funny part about that. The criteria that they want to judge the Lumbee by didn't exist when the
mm,
Cherokee
mm,
when they were certified. It used to be that
yeah,
like, "Oh, yeah, I know you. You a you a tribe."
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so
man.
it's a wild
You
place.
know what? Like when you say that though, I think about how ironic it is that we know the least about the people who are already here. You know, I reflect on when I was in college. I went to college in state, U of I, and our like the it's called the Fighting Illini, like the Illini tribe,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Illinois, the Illini tribe. And when I majored in history, you were required. The first class I had to take, it was Western civilization, bro. I kid you not. Dude from the South Side of Chicago, I had never taken anything. I never even heard of Europe being referred to as that. I thought I was going into a class, bro, about the Western Hemisphere. Kid you not. I'm thinking I'm about to go in there and learn about the indigenous people in the Americas. This
Psych.
dude start this dude started talking about white folks. Oh, bro, it was the worst class I
Let
ever
me
took.
tell you something. Let me tell you
But
this.
well, let me finish
Go
one real
ahead, go
quick.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead. I'm
No,
sorry.
I was saying that because to get my degree at a school that's named after the Illini people, I was not required to take any course about the very people who had their land taken and were named after that school. And I love my school. I'm just saying.
Nuts.
I'm just saying.
I had never thought about I watched a video from Johnny Harris about native people, specifically Oklahoma, because Oklahoma was Indian territory. When they
Mhm,
sent all of them to Oklahoma during the Trail of Tears and everybody, and they broke up that it wasn't a state at the time. They broke it up into an
yeah.
area. They were like, "Hey, you're gonna stay here, and we're never going to mess with you again." Just like you were saying earlier with that
Yep,
street,
yep,
like, they put a
yep.
line in the sand, and they weren't used to having these boundaries, but they had kinda adopted these ways and like, "Hey, these treaties," and every single time they broke those treaties. They moved them there to Oklahoma and said, "We're not gonna mess with you," and then they found ways around that. Any place that they weren't living, they moved white settlers in there. The Sooners, Oklahoma
Mhm,
Sooners, they were. You know what I'm saying? They moved in these
mm,
runs that they had, and they moved into that area, and then, like, as a last-ditch effort to try to carve out their own space, they applied
mm,
to be a state. They applied
mm,
to be a state. They were gonna call it Sequoia. um, had put together all of this stuff and wrote this charter and like, hey, we're gonna have a constitution. We're gonna go to Washington D.C. We're gonna present this to them, and they're gonna make us a state. And they
Mm,
went up. The people didn't even look at it. They didn't even acknowledge them. They went through all this effort to try to make a state, and you knew we know the history. Like they were never going to make the mistake, but still, the fact
mhm,
that this
mhm.
effort, and then a couple years later, state of Oklahoma was created, and their constitution is heavily based on the one that the natives created. Like they're
Man,
a copy and paste.
well, even the American Constitution with the Iroquois Confederation, which is something I used to teach about, and I didn't. So in the book, when I taught government, in addition to U.S. history, you get like this basic, of course, curriculum that says teach them this, this, and this for the test and everything. 'Cause I was preparing them for the Constitution. The aspects of them being influenced by the indigenous people who already had some form of elements of democracy, like that wasn't included. They wanted you to think they just came up with this out of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
like there were people here, the indigenous folks who did that, the things we did in Western Central Africa. It is mind-boggling, bro. I didn't learn until there's a creator on TikTok, man. I think he probably goes by the name of the Black Mayor, and he takes people on tours in Oklahoma. They had 70 all black towns in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Not his thing is it ain't just Tulsa, it ain't just Black Wall Street. 70 black towns at one point. We were doing this, we were figuring this out.
Where we tried to make I didn't talk about this in this other place, but there was a time that we were trying to make Oklahoma a black state because it was one of
Mhm,
the safe that's why we moved to Oklahoma when it was Indian
mhm.
territory because they didn't treat us the same way
Yeah,
that the white folks did. They treated us better, so we created towns there to get
yeah,
away from it, and then we have business of maybe this could be a black state, and then, of course, when it became Oklahoma, that bet was off.
yeah. And that's a conundrum too, man. I was on a platform one time and they was asking us like how you feel about what if black people, made their own space or have their own town, city. And I was like, well, the first thing is you should never announce it. First step is don't even talk about it. Don't even because the moment you say it,
Yeah,
is the,
it's
the moment
already
the
it's
moment you say
already a problem.
they like bet like cause see they got folks. I think it's in Arkansas. They making an all white town, bro. Like we don't care. Do you like? Do you stay away from us?
Bro,
Like,
it's
dang,
everywhere. Arkansas. Like, it's so crazy. Like, it's gonna be all white town. How many black people do you know now?
exactly. It's already white, bro. We
Right.
we mainly in the South, and we sprinkled in Chicago, L.A.,
Yeah,
New York. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
do you? It ain't gonna last that long. But go ahead and do your thing. But if we say, oh, we about to do this, oh man,
yeah.
they putting the alerts are going off and everything. Here's
What I
another thing. Oh, go ahead,
Good.
go ahead.
No. I was just gonna mention about that because the black towns that I talk about, like, when I talked about, like, Black Wall Street in Durham, or when you talk about, Mound Bayou, or I have a story coming out about Highland Beach. All of those things face the same problems you talk about. They
Mhm,
tried to make a town or a space, or these were black spaces,
mhm,
and the first thing that happened, they're like, no, absolutely not, sir." And a lot of these things were, how do we fight against that?
mhm,
How do we keep, the Black Wall Street in Durham from ending up
mhm,
like Tulsa, from getting burned down?
mhm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
those stories this
Mm,
why these stories are so critical because not only like, "Hey, don't tell people, don't do this, don't do that," but this is how your ancestors worked
mhm,
around these
mhm,
issues. Specifically, 'cause I was working on the one for Highland Beach, Maryland. What they did is, the guy, he was Frederick Douglass' son, Charles Douglass. He
mhm.
was in this restaurant. It was somewhere called they called it Queen of the Chesapeake. He went to the restaurant. They were like, "Yo, you can't serve. You can't eat here. We don't serve your kind here." Now, Charles Douglass he wasn't no Rudy Poo dude. He was black. He was a black aristocrat. He had money. So the first thing he did was buy the land right next door for $5,000. And this was like late 1800s, so that's a bunch of money. And he built and he sold that land to black people and created a black space. But they tried to like do things to mess with him. And what they did, the ultimate win here is they turned it into an incorporated town. That meant
mm,
black mayor, a black sheriff, their
mm,
own zoning boards. You couldn't touch them. You couldn't mess with them. You can't force them out. There's no law that you can create that can affect these people because this is our town with our government that we control. And that's the
mm,
ultimate, thing here that you learn is that they took the rules and the way things were made and flipped it right on them. Okay, this is the rules. This is how these rules are played. Bet we're gonna do
yeah,
this. I want to be a town, or I want to own my
yeah,
own land, or I want to do these things. And if you want to society, live in a capitalist society, you kind of have to play that game. Even when we talk
yeah,
about, and this is switching gears a little bit, talk about gentrification.
yeah,
I'm not completely against gentrification if it's done on your terms. If you
mm,
say, "Hey, I got this house that used to be granny house, and you wanna buy it for well above market price,"
mm,
fine. But when you don't own that land and,
yeah,
suddenly one white investor is selling to another white investor in a predominantly black neighborhood, that's a
yeah,
problem. But when a black
yeah,
person is selling it to, like, you wanna sell this to a white investor and he's giving you 4 times market value, and
yeah,
now you have generational wealth that you can pass down and invest and do things
yeah,
with, that's okay.
yeah,
That is
yeah.
okay for me.
It's
I can live
nuance,
with
yeah.
that.
Yeah, there's a lot of nuance to that, man. Like you said, the thing is, we are all in this system of capitalism. So it's almost like, I mean, I don't like capitalism, but I
Yeah.
understand that I also have to be able to survive and,
Survive,
and,
baby,
and
yeah.
try to be as ethical as I can as I navigate through this because I understand how we were used as that.
Let let me ask you a quick question,
Yeah.
not deviate from you,
Hmm.
'cause, I invest a little bit with my homie. My homie's big in investment,
Hmm.
but he'll pitch things to me, and because of my knowledge of things, I be
Yeah.
like, "Ugh, ugh, nah, nah."
It's hard, man.
Bro, like Lloyd's of London. Lloyd's of London used to put, like they used to insure cargo on ships. You talk about the Middle
Mm,
Passage. Lloyd's of London would insure assets, the
yeah.
packages
Yeah.
on your boat, and if you decide something were to
Mm,
happen to your cargo, let's say you, like, dump some of your cargo
yeah.
over,
Yeah.
they would prov they would pay you
Mm,
for that stuff,
yeah.
right? Lloyd's of London still exists to this day. How
Mm,
can I invest in that? How can I
yeah.
invest in a company like that when I know so I try my best. He'll pitch
Yeah.
ideas to me, and I be like, "What do you
Man.
think from a financial perspective?"
No,
'Cause
it is one of the most to know, brother. It is like they say, ignorance is bliss. That whole framing right there. It is very challenging to navigate, especially in this society, and to not just know things, but just have an interest in researching things too. Like I'm kind of that way. I started being like that even on my health journey when I started becoming aware. I'll be at the grocery store, I'd be looking at stuff, I'd be flipping
you
it
be
over.
picking, right? You picking?
Not no more, man.
I thought
Shout
I heard you mention you didn't eat meat.
Yeah, yeah, shout out to the vegans though, but I left that, man. I think it's been about a year and a couple months now. I started getting back in the gym, bro, and it was hard with the weight training to get
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
I needed to refuel my body. It's
It you have to
possible, but
it is totally possible, but it's more difficult. You have to ingest
yeah,
so much, or
and
you have
everywhere you go,
supplements. Yeah,
I would
and yet
have to
you'd have to find food, you have to prepare my meals
yes,
because nobody caters to your lifestyle. It's like, how am I
bro.
going to the protein that I need when you don't have nothing?
Bro, I used to have to when I go out with friends, whatever, I would have to research the menu, prepare myself, the inevitability, maybe I gotta eat before I go, or we go into a fancy spot because somebody burped that they want to go to a steakhouse. All I could get is the fries or something or whatever. Like you gotta grab some food after.
Yeah,
It was, 'cause I never really did it because of like I know some people do it for the like the with the ethical, the
yeah,
PETA
yeah, yeah,
type
yeah.
stuff. I did it because I felt like it was good for my health at that time. And I think it was a great thing, but where I'm at now, bro, I was like, man, when I started getting back in the gym and really heavy lifting, my body was like, yo, I need some
You
beef, some salmon, some
yeah, yeah.
chicken.
It's something.
I
It's
ain't looked
something that
back, man. But so like even with that, I'm like before I even became a vegan for a little bit, I was meticulous, but looking at the ingredients and stuff like that, and it's hard to know and to still make decisions because even with like just how we exist, we know our money is partially being used nefariously as opposed
absolutely.
to the investments we want in the community. Um, So I struggle with that a lot too, man, because even with the whole the stock market thing in general, I think like, man, even if I was to engage, like to devote more time to that, I just feel like I don't want to just devote my time to making money. Like I just, I just, I like it for it to be a byproduct of what I love doing, but I ain't trying to, take a course to learn this and be up watching and,
I
like,
I had to turn to my homie as an investor and just like, you know, like not like giving power of attorney or nothing, just like agency, like, "Hey, bro,
no, yeah, straight
I
up.
trust I trust you. I'm not gonna pay attention too much.
Yeah,
We'll discuss the money aspect of it and where
mm,
your plan, but if I know these companies, I'm gonna have a problem with these companies because I have a problem
right.
with everybody, you know?"
Yeah, yeah. It like I relate to that so much, man, because I think even too, I'm at the point with what I do as an educator where I'm more comfortable with outsourcing the things that don't allow me to devote most of my time to education. So like I know I need like I'm not about to go on TurboTax and try to do my taxes. You know what I'm saying? Like let me outsource that to somebody who specializes in that. But I'm about to connect this. I'm about to connect this, bro, because even going back to what one of our favorite artists, J. Cole, said before, I remember he had this interview some years back. And when I taught economics, man, I would actually show this a lot. This is like short fro J. Cole. He was on Angie Martinez talking about the issue with capitalism and how capitalism keeps us in this cycle of being too busy to be concerned about the things that we should be focusing on because you want to protest, but of course we're gonna put the protest on Saturday when most people off work, or we're gonna put it at like 5 or 6. But you understand that by you deciding to consistently still, instead of going to that protest, but back then may have been Mike Brown, by passing it and going to work, you're making a choice like, well, I got to be able to survive too. But like the issues never really get resolved until we are able to step outside of that comfort zone and disrupt the normalcy of things like that. And I found that as a teacher. I'm finding that now, like if I can't truly teach the way I want to, if I got to answer every single email or I got to
Yeah,
do all of this, and that's what we are struggling with now, I think, not just in our community, I think as a whole, because
yeah.
whether you poor and white, poor, black, poor, Latino, it's like I care about this, y'all, but I need food.
Yeah, I had to be able to live. It's one of the things that you see, and this is another thing that we kinda learned from our ancestors about because they had these same issues. When you look at the movement, there's a big reason why a lot of the leaders at the top were ministers, because ministers
Yeah.
were not only were they leaders in their community, but a lot of those churches were owned by the community. They weren't subjected to the white power structure. They could I could take the
Mhm,
time to protest. I can't be fired by you. What would
mhm,
happen is you would have, especially after Brown versus Board of Education, they went hard into the NAACP and they would get the rosters, and anybody who was in that roster, they would fire. They would fire,
mhm,
and that
mhm,
got to the point where I can't be a part of the NAACP. I can't be seen. I might give you money, but I can't get out there to protest because I need my job. I have to continue to live. I can't take the time to do those things. And
bro.
this is where somebody who lived outside that was able to excel because they didn't weren't subjected to that power structure. People look at that and they're like, why all of them ministers and why all of them wear suits and why they always
Mhm,
talk about church? Because this is who they were. These are the people who were the leaders in the community at the time. And in 2026, it doesn't have to be that way. It could be a content creator because you're not subjected to that white power structure. This is how you
yeah,
take that, you look at things and you say, hey, how can I apply this to 2026? It doesn't have, you don't have to be Martin Luther King. This is another reason why I like to show Dr. King as a human being, that he was not a mythological person. He was a
mhm,
human being who
mhm,
who was afraid and scared and had problems just like
yeah,
us. He very early on in Montgomery, when they were doing the protest after Rosa Parks was on the bus and stuff, which was a setup, by the way. They did that
yeah,
on
yeah,
purpose. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, mhm,
so they were trying to set up the, Montgomery Improvement Association, right? And they needed a leader, and they're like, "Who is gonna lead this?" And they had a few older guys who lived in Montgomery at the time, but the reason why they chose, Dr. King was not because Dr. King stepped up, not because Dr. King like, "Hey, I'll do it." No, they picked Dr. King because he had not lived in Montgomery long enough to make any friends or enemies. He
mhm,
was just the right person at the right time to show that was there, and he took off in that role. Like, you don't even know what you are capable of till you put, life
Mhm.
forces these things
Yes.
upon you, and next thing you know, you go out there and you be great and you do something great. Like
Yeah.
4 years ago, I'm sure you didn't think you would be here, and 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I definitely didn't think I'd be doing this.
Yeah, nah, man, it's like being able to find that balance of what you love, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and also too what the moment calls for. Because Dr. King could also propel during the time where TVs become more ubiquitous, and we began to see
Yeah,
people like if he had tried to do that 40 years priorly, it's not a big of a deal. Like Ida B. Wells refused to get up out of her, like I think
yeah,
train seat or whatever.
he
Like it was
did,
different. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying? Like
and
a lot,
nobody saw it, and nobody talked.
nobody saw.
We don't even talk about Ida B. Wells, who was, by the way, one
Come
of the
on.
greatest
Uh,
people
top
of our
top
generation.
top 3 for me,
Yeah,
probably not 2 or 3. Probably not 2.
absolutely. Like, and there's about a person that we don't talk about nearly enough who was really
Cold, like,
he's
cold
cold.
blood,
Yeah.
bruh,
One
and the ways that she had to even deal with the negativity within our community, people telling her to be quiet, the preachers telling her that she needed to hush her mouth, and, like, she was in Memphis, doing a lot of this stuff, and she came up to Chicago eventually, but, like, her life was on the line. We can't do this without people like that, and it
They
wasn't
were
like
gonna kill her. They
it
were
was,
gonna kill her in Memphis. They told her, "If she come back here, we are going to lynch you." That's like, it's real. It's real.
real, bruh. To your point too, man, when you brought up Dr. King, I immediately thought about you talked about the aspect of people losing jobs. I found out something. I think this is very important for people to listen to as well. Oftentimes people think that you either have to, be a voracious reader, self-taught, or get a degree to be your local historian or whatever. I think we should all be in control of our family's history and talk to our elders and document these stories. Dr. King came out to Joliet, Illinois, again, about 45 minutes from Chicago in 1965. If you look up the story, you find that he came here and they brought him to this stadium, Memorial Stadium, and they were expecting 10,000 people. In the article, you read that only 2,000 showed up. And I remember reading that some years ago, and I was like, dang, something just don't feel right. This is 1965. This is after the Nobel Prize. You know what I'm saying? I have a dream speech. Something don't feel right about that. So I've been doing this project in the area where I've been interviewing a bunch of like, elders and folks who are in the boomer generation. And I found out something I never learned from these articles. And that's why we got to tell our stories and we got to document it because, especially even those local papers, most times are white owned establishments.
Yeah, yeah, they
The
washed.
e Yeah, the elders told me that a lot of people didn't show up because they could have lost their job, bruh. They were threatened. If you go, because people came to Joliet because of the steel industry, the industrial jobs. They were going down south, grabbing people off the streets and bringing them up here from Mississippi and Florida and Alabama and stuff like that, New Orleans. So they told you at that time, if you go there, you don't have a job anymore.
Yep.
And that type of stuff still happens because if you visibly, people losing their job now all the time, right? I mean, sometimes I have speaking engagements, and it's like, well, you can't say this, you can't talk about that,
Yeah,
but I want you to address that thing that person, that thing is causing.
bro. Let me tell you something about those speaking engagements. I be giving them the softest lollipops, black stories from Black history. Like, I'm not
Man,
listen, you
the corporate space, man, is like they like it's and I get it though because we gotta kind of
it's a
toe
balance.
that line a little bit.
Yeah, balance.
Um, but it is very difficult in a country where, like, especially if you got a nonprofit, it's like the nonprofit is created to remedy the problem created by politicians. But
Right,
I can't explicitly talk about the people who have caused this issue. Otherwise, I'm gonna lose support or, or
right.
funding.
And it's
And
like,
what are we doing?
what are we
We
doing?
Man, I think something that's really important too, because I'm seeing some of the folks chime in. Thank y'all for supporting too and listening
I'm so
during
glad you
this.
guys are here. I really am.
Yeah, yeah. Shout out to I can't see some of the names, but I saw Noble Wood was a
Yeah,
consistent comment.
yeah,
I saw
yeah.
my aunt on here too. Shout out to Dr. Knight. I'm gonna see you this weekend. Um, I think that we really have to be intentional about creating community funds though. We got to like with all of the money that could be taken away from these
Yeah,
corporate entities or
yeah,
federal grants, they didn't have these grant opportunities back then. These movements were funded by people and then sometimes private philanthropists and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah,
We can do this if 500 people get $5, if 5,000 people, right? Um like, and of course you could do that for us, but what I'm really talking about is like find
Yeah,
find a local organization,
yeah,
grassroots, the organization that does not have a branch all across the country, and these folks got to work full-time jobs and organize on the side. There's a reason why they like. A preacher is most effective when he or she can commit all of that time to the ministry. You know what I'm
right.
saying? So like find a way to, if you give your time and stuff, that's cool. Find organizations that are exuding what the church speaks about and get them some money
And
too.
And one of the things that I like to mention heavily about, once again, from learning from my elders about the civil rights movement, is that we know about Dr. King and his Southern Christian Leadership Conference, but Southern Christian Leadership Conference wasn't what you think of it today. They relied heavily on local organizations to be the linchpin for those movements,
Yeah.
and they just provided support on top of that. That mostly came of Dr. King showing up at your spot, and now people are, cameras showed up and things like that. But the people who were really running these, uh, um, the movement were these local organizations, like we just
Mm,
talked about the Montgomery Improvement Association. There were tiny ones like that. When you talk about the Birmingham and, God, who is it? Shuttlesworth. Reverend
mm,
Shuttlesworth. Like, he
mm,
had his own local organization. He lived in that area. He got the
mm,
support of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, but this was still his effort. He's another one.
mm,
He's another one that's an OG that he was about that life. Um, and so when you talk about supporting local organizations, if you really wanna see the change, like, or you really wanna make change in your environment, your world around you, starting local is the thing that will have the greatest impact on your life and what's going on. Finding a local organization that you believe in, that's just trying to make a difference and you donate to, is the biggest thing that you can do, that you can help, change what's going on around. As a matter of fact, if you could volunteer, like I'm big into that.
yeah,
Volunteer in the community, finding it a noble cause. Now, granted, you got to audit these places.
yeah,
You got to audit these places because
yeah,
you want to find out where your money is going and who you're giving your money
yeah.
to. But like, if you find the right one, I think that you can really make a change.
Yeah, straight up. I think, so, yeah, I'm always a big proponent of when I tell people, because again, I work with and I partner with organizations that want to increase like the need for black educators and stuff like that. But I always try to be very practical. Not everybody should be in the class. Not everybody's going to want to be in the class. But the thing that we can all do is find a way to volunteer at our local schools, especially if we black men, to show our face, show the babies nearby that we support them for a
Yeah,
career day, whatever the school will allow you to come in for. I don't care, like the title don't really matter. I think sometimes we get caught up with that. Some folks will say, "Well, I'm not a executive. I'm not a CEO. I'm not a that don't matter. You a black man in America. You've learned some valuable lessons.
yeah,
You, you that's an accomplishment. You still here, bruh. We need
yeah,
to hear from that experience locally. And I'm
right,
gonna say this too, man, because I'm probably gonna post this on all my platforms. I have some very prominent people that follow me, man, that like in the entertainment industry, athletes and stuff like that. And I need to probably clip this part right here because what I want to say is very intentional. I think that I would love if everybody was like Kaepernick. I know that's not practical, right? I
right.
think if everybody supported folks like that and took similar stances, things would change quicker because America loves its distractions and entertainment, right?
Yeah,
Imagine if the football
yeah,
players was like, hey, we ain't doing nothing until
yeah.
this, and that. Ain't
And
no Super
I'm not
Bowl.
gonna lie to you. I'm in it because I watch it. I still
Oh, no, no,
absorb it.
bro, no. This is not that. This is
Yeah,
not that. I'm I'm saying this because there's a limit of what we can do as the viewers in this day and age, right? We all have our things, bro. I haven't been that passionate about football since that happened, but I mean, I'll look past the NBA stuff. Like none of these leagues are perfect, and I
right,
think we all need a healthy outlet. My message is more so to the people who, okay, like yeah, I admire what Kaepernick did, but look, I gotta do my thing. Look, I ain't judging. Find somebody to support though on the side. You ain't got to announce it. You ain't got to announce it. We know on the higher end, Jalen Brown is doing a lot of work that he's said publicly, right? If I ain't pocket watching, but maybe I am. You're making millions of dollars, right? who
right,
who can you give to locally that you know is doing the work?
right.
Because if you feel like, because some people's role is to be the funder. Some
Yeah,
folks have a way to be in the rooms and they can navigate these corporate spaces. Hey, look, if that's you, don't sacrifice that. Get that money, right? of course, with integrity, but then find a way to fund the folks who are I know so many people, bro, that they full time something else and doing this. What
Yeah,
if a local basketball player who's making at this point the bench player is making 25 mil? Okay,
yeah, yeah,
taxes. Maybe it's 15 after
yeah.
taxes. You paying people. Okay, maybe you got 11 to 10. Can you give 100,000 to somebody? Can you fund somebody on the side? I'm not saying
Man,
it's your
can you imagine?
responsibility to do it all, but Mahalia Jackson was doing it. Paul Robeson spoke up.
He was doing it.
Harry Belafonte, these
Eric
mugs
Belafonte.
almost got killed, bruh.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we
yeah.
can do this.
Robeson was blackballed for this, for just sort of thing that you're talking about right now. I wanna,
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
wanna ask you a question, and we
Yeah.
probably haven't touched this, it's getting kinda late
Yeah.
in the game, but what are you reading? What are you reading?
Oh, I'm glad you said that. For one, I'm glad that you because I know that you're utilizing this space as a book club, right? I'm going to start doing that as well. I think the issue is like I read a bunch of different things at the same
Yeah.
time, but when I'm going to start my book club off of this book I just finished reading a couple months ago. This book is called
Ooh,
Revolution
that's
in Our
thick.
Time: The Black Panthers Party's Promise to the People. It's like I'm like the blackest textbook. It's almost like a textbook. Like this could be, you know what I'm saying, in a school, right?
Oh, that's
Because it like
wonderful.
the pages, everything is like a textbook. Her name is excuse the mispronunciation if I do say her name wrong, but Kekla Magoon.
Mhm,
She's a Coretta Scott King honor winner. This book was given to me by an educator when I first spoke in the Bay. I want to say maybe 2023, and I didn't pick it back up to finish it until last year, and I was blown away. Not that it was like a bunch of stuff I did not know, but it was like
mhm.
the depth that she provided, and she starts with enslavement and brings it forward to like why they were needed. She talks about the issues, but you can tell a sister wrote it. You can tell
Yeah,
that somebody who cares because
yeah.
that determines the perspective of our textbooks. Because in a regular historical textbook, it might say just a bunch of radical militants who got in
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
shootouts
yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah.
no, no, no. Like she
Words matter.
frames exactly. She frames it in a way that you know. I don't even think she's from America. Like, but she framed in a way that you know that she cares and wanted to make sure these stories were taught in a certain way. So that's what I'm gonna be talking about. Highly recommend that. It's a great read, great visuals. I'm
Mhm.
also like rereading. Um, oh man, where do we go from here? Dr. King. And I got another book. I'm trying to practice more, bro. Like reading the books I have that I have not touched,
That
even
you
though
haven't touched, that you got in
even
there, but you haven't read yet? Yeah.
even though I just keep grabbing new stuff, but this is a really good one. This might be a sleeper, man. From Black Lives Matter to Black Liberation. This one, man. And again, excuse the mispronunciation if I do mispronounce the name. Kianga Yamada Taylor.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah. This book, I think, and it was written in 2016. Like, for the folks who are really about Black Lives Matter, that's when we was already into it.
yeah.
It I think it bridges the gap between the symbolicness of movements and what actually needs to be done. I'm at the point now where she's talking about how like the rise in black politicians after the 60s and the
Yeah,
70s and 80s, all that, like it and where they failed at. And not even that, I don't even want to say that. We're not where they failed, but the limitations of the
yeah,
system,
yeah.
so it
What's her
really
name?
challenged.
Shirley Chisholm talked about that a lot. She talked about
Yeah.
how the biggest thing she faced was not from racism, it was from black men. Black men, because
Mm-hmm.
there were very few,
Yeah.
even before she
Mhm.
ran for president, black representatives in the Congress at the time.
Yes, yes. And that's a deeper conversation on the things that we have to continue to work on, in our community because we've seen so many examples of like, yeah, we got the representation, but are we gonna get the resources? And then sometimes it's that glass ceiling of, well, I'm here. If I want to keep my job, I can't really say I'm gonna support
Yeah, I
y'all
can't do
because,
this. Yeah, I can't do
you
that.
know,
Yeah.
so I've lowered all my expectations, honestly, bro.
Oh,
It's,
man,
yeah, what you
so
reading though, man?
so I started this book club mostly because I needed to be better at reading.
Yeah,
Like, I'm constantly researching, so I know stories and tidbits,
yeah,
and I would skim and then take out with the information that I needed, and then it's
yeah,
gone. So I had
yeah,
collected all
yeah,
these books, but I
yeah,
wasn't actually reading the books. I
yeah,
was just skimming the books and then taking the bit. I started, like, really, really reading, and you know what's happened? Man, you it that cup of knowledge that you have for history, it just like a light comes on. It's like,
bro,
"Wow, I am learning
bro,
so much. I had no idea." It framed
man.
people that you thought you knew. So I was
Yeah.
reading the first book I read was, Radio Free Dixie, which was about Robert F. Williams, who, by the way, another OG, one of my
Mm.
favorites. He is and,
Unsung hero.
he lived near here. He lived in
Mm.
Monroe. Monroe was like 25 minutes away from here. The
Wow.
streets, the places he talked about, the people he talked about, you know, Jesse Alexander Helms, who was our senator
Mm.
here for years,
Mm.
lived in Monroe. He knew his father. Like, these people, I know the street that he lives on. I've seen it. So it's like
Mm.
a little local history. Sometimes he would talk about people, and I don't mention this. My grandfather was in politics. He was a local politician, and
Mhm.
he done a lot for Charlotte. Honestly, he should probably have a plaque or something. You know,
Mm.
I mean, that ain't me, that ain't my dad,
Yeah, yeah.
but he's done some stuff,
He done
and
some
and
work.
and it's crazy to read people because I would read about people, and I was like, "Oh, I know him. My dad talks
Mm.
about him. My dad talks
Mhm.
about that guy," and then they paint him in his light. They're like, he was trash." I'm like, "Wow." So,
Wow.
like, reading
Yeah.
this book and having his local history and talk about these people that I know, that I've
Yeah.
seen, like, it talks about this guy, God, I can't remember his name, something Alexander. He runs a funeral home here.
Mhm.
My grandmother was buried at that funeral home. Like,
Mm.
you see that, you're like, "Man, this is
Mm.
this is this
It
is this
it
is my
it
history."
it makes
Eh
it come alive. I think too when we get
Yeah,
back into reading, like, with physical books, because I can speak for myself too, like, a lot of the times, some of the content I was making was like, oh, I came across an article, I'm reading a short blurb,
yeah,
but then when you pull yourself away and say, "Well, let me immerse myself," but
yeah.
going back to the libraries and reading and being in community, it makes you realize that we ain't even really touched on how there is more content about our history that is not online than it is, even though there are thousands upon thousands of videos.
Th
That
let me just a tiny little thing that I learned. Talking about Robert Williams. Robert Williams had a debate with Dr. King in
mm,
1959. It was basically
wow,
about,
I didn't know that.
um, nonviolence versus, violent self-defense.
Mm.
And it was not a in-person one. It was like a written he'd write an article,
Oh,
and
okay,
then Dr.
okay.
King would write a rebuttal, and then they would
Mm,
post it in a newspaper. It was a
mm,
newspaper run by Bayard Rustin.
mm,
But the fact see, this is what we don't I don't know. I didn't know that happened. I had no idea they even knew of each other. I didn't know they were aware. Like, the fact that he even took the time to even address this guy means that he was an important in the movement, and I didn't realize how tenuous the civil rights movement was in the '50s and how we were still trying to find our way. This is why when people, like, you talk about, like, ministers not knowing, like, they only want, "I want a piece
mm,
spiritual need. I don't wanna
mm,
be involved. I don't wanna do this. We should do this. We should do that." That's what that's all about. And this is
mm.
Robert Williams was just saying, "This is my way. This is the way that I think we
Yeah,
should do things."
yeah,
And then
yeah,
eventually how things ended up. This is the thing that you find out when you read because you
yeah.
once again, gloss is over. It makes it feel like we got off in 1955 and Emmett Till was murdered, and we decided we was just we're gonna march until you give us our
We just
rights.
don't.
And that's just
And
not
bro, that makes me think of this book. You may have heard of it, that nonviolent stuff to get you killed. I think that is one of the most impactful books I've ever read to reframe how I think about the civil rights era. There's an image of I don't have it nearby right now, but a black woman with a gun on the cover. And it talks about how a lot of the nonviolent movements are made possible because of the threat of violence and how, and especially in individual situations, black folks resisted with
Yeah,
guns and had to. I think what you're saying about Robert Williams is so important because it reframes this narrative people have about Southern passivity
yeah,
or Southern compliance. Like when you look at it through the lens of Dr. King, it makes you think that the South was like this and
yeah,
Malcolm X was like that because he was in
yeah.
the North or the big city. And that's not true. There's a nuance in all of these conversations. And again, truthfully, Dr. King would not be effective without people
No,
like Robert
no.
Williams. Without because it's like if you're not gonna listen to him, this is what's gonna happen. And the
And
fact that some
he framed and Malcolm X to a certain lesser extent too. I mean, to a same similar extent. He framed M Dr. King as the lesser of two evils. You can see our bad side. You know what I'm saying?
right,
You can
right,
see what the other side holds. And even
right.
someone like Rosa Parks, Black AF History has this tiny excerpt where he
Mm,
talks about Rosa Parks and the clan would have night rides, and she was at her grandfather's house,
Yeah.
and her grandfather would sit on the porch and wait for him, and she would
Mhm.
sit up with him, and she was like, "I'm not afraid. I wasn't
Mhm.
afraid. I wanted to see my daddy shoot a Klansman. That's what
Yep,
I
I
that's what
remember
I'm
that.
that's what I'm here to see." This is not like when you frame it, you need to understand that these people, especially in the South, were used to carrying guns, and they were used to having their own agency, and they were
Mhm.
willing to arm themselves. They didn't want to do these things, but I have a gun. I know how to shoot it, even from my own history. My my father's my dad's father, my grandfather is from Alabama. His dad used to live in tiny town outside of Birmingham, Montgomery, somewhere around in there. I'm not sure. I ain't been in like 25 years.
Mhm.
Anyway, my grandfather went down there with his really, really light skinned wife, my grandmother. They thought she was white. They were getting ready to assault him and were going to lynch him. This was in the mid-50s, like
Mhm.
mid-50s. This, Alabama different. My grandfather comes out the store and they're like, "Motley, you know this boy?" He's like, "Yes, that's my son. This is his wife." He's like, "Oh, okay." And then they backed off. Do you know why they respected my grandfather like that? Because he was the best shot in the state. He
Mm.
won. He won their shooting trials they had to ask him to stop. They had to ask him to stop competing because he was
Yeah.
that good of a shot. They were
Mm.
afraid of him. You know what I'm saying? Like this is the history. This is the
Yeah.
history that we live in. You need to frame people as that we're not. They weren't always passive. And even the civil rights movement, even Dr. King. Dr. King applied for a handgun license. Like he had to be talked into
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Dr. King that we saw.
Yeah.
The one that
And
was like,
even with
"Yo, yeah."
yeah, exactly. 'Cause and that's why I admire him so much too, because he said it's not only a strategy, he made it his life. I'm not willing to do those.
He got stabbed. Let me tell you,
Yeah, it's
he
like
get stabbed.
it's one thing to say this is gonna be a strategy. It's another thing to say I'm not even
It's
gonna
my
have guns
life.
in my house. It's
He
like,
this
brother,
guy, not only they bombed his house and he got stabbed, and afterwards, he's like, "If I die, this movie gonna keep on." Or, like, after he gets stabbed, he tells him, he's like,
man,
"You're always gonna get people who gonna try to push you when you're going the right direction, but me getting stabbed, this only deepens my love of nonviolence. Are you sure? Are you positive about this? Because that
brother
don't seem like
was
the way, brother."
that trip to India must have been just
Right, like, what did they tell you? What did he say?
man. Because I for the I think it's a great strategy because it's passive aggressive, right?
Yeah,
It is very confrontational, but I'm not one to say that it is the only strategy. I think you gotta, your toolbox has to be diverse. You might need a
yeah,
screwdriver, Phillips head flat,
yeah,
so you might need a hammer sometime, you might need the wrench or whatever. So I think it's complicated because it's like you said, in certain situations, and more often these could be these interpersonal
yeah,
situations when you are in towns. You have to show force to let people know that you ain't the one.
yeah,
And
that you're
sometimes that
capable of.
force, right, and sometimes that force ain't even physical. Sometimes it's like what I am willing to do to ensure that this does not happen
And this
again.
This is the ideology that the Black Panthers were built on. This is what they read Negroes with Guns by Robert F. Williams, and the reason
Mhm.
why they started out, monitoring the Oakland PD with open carry weapons is because of that. Like, I need you to know what we're capable
Right.
of, what could happen. And you know what happened to them? The FBI found out, and they systematically dismantled.
Yep, 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 yep. Man, it is so because I think about what you say with that, and that makes me think of how much again is not in our books that people need to know. I think for anybody listening, the greatest call to action you should get from this is you gotta read
Please
from
read.
folks who are in the community, and you need to talk to the people, man, because there are so many stories that you
Absolutely.
uncover in
Just talk to your
conversation.
ancestors. Talk to
Yeah.
your ancestors, talk to your granny. I talked to my wife's mother who she had him late, she 83. She's the same age as Emmett Till was when he passed. So
Mm,
she was 14 when he
yeah.
died. And I asked her one day, I was like, "Hey, what was it like? What was it
Mhm.
like?" And she was like, "It was sad, but that's just the way things were at the time." Like,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
like, you didn't even you talk about how my mind getting blown, like, you weren't mad, you weren't pissed, you were like, "No, this is just the way things were. This
Mm,
is why life at the time." Like, you have to talk to people so they can
mm,
frame things in a human perspective. We look at things
mm.
in the 2026 eyes, and it
Yeah.
kinda
Yeah.
distorts our vision of how
Mm,
people were and how they dealt with things at the time, and it's like,
mm.
wow. That's so
Yeah.
interesting. Or even better yet, like, I would just ask her, like, what was like just being a little girl in the South? What was it like growing up in the South? What did you deal with? I talked to my
Mm,
dad the same way. You know, my dad was middle class. They were middle, upper middle class. He was like, I didn't
mm,
really deal with that stuff. My family insulated me from that racism. I was in a
yeah.
black community and we didn't have that. We didn't have that
Mhm.
because I didn't deal with white people on a regular basis. My grandmother, they asked my grandmother who was light enough. You can't tell from me. They done filtered that part out, but my grandmother was very fair skinned. I thought she was white for years. And I asked her, I was like, "Hey, how come you didn't pass as white?" She's like, I wanna fucking be white. Why would I wanna do that? Fuck them. This is a quote. This is what she told me. Like, I'm not cursing the
Yeah,
curse. This is
yeah,
literally what she
yeah,
told me. This is why this is stuff is so important. If you talk to your ancestors, you find out stuff
yeah.
you didn't have any idea. My dad, he they had a chapter of the Black Panthers here in Winston-Salem, and he went
Mhm.
to Winston-Salem State, and they pulled up to a party and, like, would try to kidnap him. Like, "You gonna join the party or else, or else." And then
Dang.
granted, they eventually were like, "Nah, we're not gonna do that," and they bailed. But you're like, wow. Wow, like, that's
Yeah,
stuff in history, like, once again, you don't have to share everything. Everything is not for everybody, but
right.
I want give me everything. Give me the entire
Yes,
story,
yes.
and then I will
Yeah.
figure it out, ingest it, and figure out what's possible to everybody else. I need to hear
That
all of it, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then for the, sanitized crowd, I'll give you this here.
no,
Here,
we
we give you
need
this
to
here.
really another call to action, man, is that we need to have these community gatherings, bro, where the elders can speak to the young folks and
Oh, yeah.
us. I
Oh,
think like again, quoting J. Cole, we're the middle child. Like we in between
yeah.
these eras, but there's nothing, man, that's more fulfilling than hearing those conversations, giving them the floor and then letting them understand, like, this is your truth.
Yeah.
I can't like it's one thing to read about what happened, it's another to have lived it. And we're gonna be in that position one day, talk about the 2010s and 2020s and all of this. Like it is real, bro. We got to find a way to continue to bridge those gaps, man, because those
Yeah.
stories are
I
profound.
think those stories are so important, especially people who, like, who lived in it, and they could tell you what that was like
Mhm.
and the changes
Yep,
in how
yep,
things, 'cause I
yep.
mean, like, even, if I talk to my dad, I even talked to him about, like, you know, crack and the war on drugs and how things change in this community, you know what I'm saying? And how things
Mhm.
were like, what was it like for
Yeah,
him? And he can tell me that stuff, frankly, because he lived in it. I just remember it when I tell this story, I just know it from like, "Oh,
right. The
this
dude,
what happened.
yeah,
This happened because I read it." But when you
right,
hear
right.
somebody like, "I was lived it," nah, that's
Yeah,
the way it was. Like you were talking about. We
yeah.
didn't go because we were scared we're gonna lose our jobs. This is what
Mhm.
you find out when you talk to people. You give lived in,
Yep,
real
yep,
life history. That's super
yeah.
interesting. I love it.
I
I
I
love it.
wanna I wanna give another call to action to the white folks listening, because here's one thing I found, right? Because I've interviewed my parents, I've interviewed different people in the community. It You don't find, at least not from my experience so far, you don't find a lot of white folks who lived during that time who want to be candid about the things they have seen. I promise, bro, there are so many things that
Yeah,
they have seen that they have not told about. For one, we could just use the example of we don't know all the people who were lynched, right? They
yeah,
stopped really keeping track of that towards the end of the 60s and stuff like that. We know that stuff was happening. We know I've talked to folks after presentations I've given who have come up to me and told me that because somebody thought they were, let's say, Western European and not Jewish, how they were, that people, when they were looking for homes, they were
yeah,
communicated. They
yeah.
found out how the police were also moonlighting as the realtors to ensure that their community stayed a certain way and kept out
Mm.
Jewish folks, Latino, black folks, stuff like that. Like there are different stories like that that some of y'all have not built up the courage to report on yet. And
I
and
would
that's one of the roles that y'all gonna have to stop being cowards about it,
hey,
quite honestly.
give me 1 second. Let me get 1 second. I gotta use the bathroom right quick.
Oh, yeah, we got to wrap it up in a second too. Anyway, we've been on this thing for a minute, but I'm gonna continue on my rant for the white folks that's on here that support either one of us. I need y'all to start telling those secrets outside of the monetary, aspect that we need in this system, the repair that needs to be done. Talk to the elders in your community too. Get some of that stuff on record before they go, because just like our people had to survive a certain time period, we understand that your people, your ancestors lived through that same thing, and at some point they may have been the instigator of the situation. They may have been involved in the situation, but this thing don't get mended by us just talking about the pain and the trauma and all that type of stuff. It also has to entail y'all bringing this stuff up because again, y'all write most of the history books that's out there. There's some things y'all keeping hidden. Y'all gonna mention a little blurb of slavery, a little blurb of the Jim Crow, but we want to talk about no. Like there's a older white lady. Shout out to Miss Drugan. She always keep it real with me. She sometimes brings me to the Unitarian Church to speak and everything. And I had a conversation with her one time. She was in a western suburb growing up, and she said that the realtors would come to white folks like screaming, like the N words are coming, like they would
Ooh,
they were going through the streets, knocking on doors, like creating panic to get people, black white people to try to move out, and so like there are stories like that that most people ain't hearing about, man.
yeah.
But I don't want to be on this thing all day, bro, because we got stuff to do.
No, actually,
We
I
gotta
actually
do this
really
again,
enjoyed it.
man.
I would tell you something, man. Two things that I never get to do. I No one ever invites me to talk about stuff outside of history. Like, you see all the stuff
Yeah,
on the wall. Like, you're a bit of a
yeah,
renaissance
yeah,
man. I have other passions. Like, I
yeah,
talk about music or comic books or whatever you wanna do. And 2,
yeah,
I never get to talk to people who love history like I love history. So whenever I talk to people, they bring me on. They're like, "Hey, tell me about this. Tell me about that. Do da 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 da
yeah,
da
yeah,
da. How
yeah,
you what you?" But they don't like when I tell them stories. Like, "Oh, I didn't know that." We're talking to you. It's like,
yeah.
I fill your cup, you fill my cup.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, I
We
got
shooting around, bro. We
yeah,
shooting
we shooting
around.
around. Like that stuff, I never get that. So just being here, it's
Yeah,
like I love every bit of it. This, and I told you this, and
yeah,
this I'm gonna be candid. I've been wanting to talk to you for a while. I have been wanting to talk to you for a while, but pride is it's a funny thing. I was like, "Man, he ain't gonna wanna talk to me. He ain't gonna wanna talk to me. I ain't gonna message that man. He busy, he got stuff. He got speaking engagements." I think you had, like, uh, uh, Fred Hampton Jr. on your show one time. I'm like, "Man, ain't gonna never talk to me. I ain't nobody." So I just, like, I didn't say nothing. So, like, just being here and, like, getting that invite, like, I was so excited because I was like, "Yo, this is."
yeah.
I would
No, I
love to talk
appreciate
to
it.
him, man. I thought this
Nah,
was
man, it's mutual, bro. Like, I mean, for one, shout out to Fred Hampton Jr. I'm actually doing an event with him February 28th in Joliet. So for all the people that are in the Chicago area, you can pay to attend this event at the Joliet area historical museum. He's coming out, and I'm gonna interview him. But like for me, bro, I'm a classroom teacher who decided to like teach outside the class too, bro. Like I appreciate your support, everybody's support, and also too like real recognize real, man. I see the content. Like I said, I be sharing the videos. I share like the blurbs and everything. And I think what I found too being real in this space where people who are educators become content creators, sometimes people ain't really that genuine, bro, to be real with you. You know, it is and I feel like I'm a good gauge of when somebody is genuine the way I feel I am, man. And it's important for us to make those bonds because just because
people
somebody talks about this stuff don't mean that they have the same care that you do with it.
not only they're not genuine, but I I and this might be just me. I don't like when I feel like people don't understand the subject in depth, that they just talk
Mhm.
blurb or one history, or they're like, "Hey, this happened," but like, and someone said that. Someone said this to me. I'm just
Yeah.
sidetrack a little bit, but like one day I talked about Ruby Bridges, and
Mhm.
then like a story, and then I mentioned that I didn't think it was right that Ruby Bridges was put in that situation. Like, you should never put a 6-year-old in that situation.
Mhm.
That's not cool, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't think so.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
she was like they were like, "Yo, what do you know when you just post these excerpts every single day?" Let me tell you something.
Come
Knuckle
on.
deep in this. I am knee deep in this history. Whatever you want
Come
to I post these notes before for you.
on. Come on,
I
man.
know this whole story. I could talk about this
Bro, you
all
live in the
day, but
South. You live in
yeah,
the South, bro.
I live in this in this story, but also, like, I feel like we need to, frame history as people are not infallible and our stories are not infallible, and the people might have misstep or done things, and that's fine. You don't have to be we don't always have to agree with everything. I know you see that on social media, but,
Yeah.
like, you have to be 10 toes down with every single idea, every single plan, and that's
Yeah.
not it's never gonna be the case. I can feel like it's not this wouldn't be the method. My son
Yeah.
and granted, my son is autistic.
mhm,
and he's the same age as Ruby Bridges was. He about to be. He's 5, he about to be 6.
mhm,
I would
mhm. Yeah,
never send him to some
yeah.
be the face of integration in my state. That's
We
insanity.
bro, we act like when we report on history, oftentimes we act like those people weren't people during that time because we exalt them. Like there are things when I'm like as I'm rereading, where do we go from here with Dr. King? There are things I vehemently disagree with him about.
Yeah,
But I mean, I, of course, mostly agree. And I he was a human though, like especially
yeah,
a lot of the parts about the Black Power movement and stuff. I really struggled with, but I also appreciated the perspective because I even know he didn't disagree with the idea of us being empowered. He was disagreeing with this how it was promoted and things like that. I think we have to get to that point where we say we can be grateful for what they did while also with the hindsight we have saying I wish this would have been done a little bit different. Like I think that's what we miss out on. Like none of these people are religious figures. They
no,
were doing what they thought was best. And that's
right,
why I get with a lot of folks, man. It's like for me, how we dissect people even today, depending on what's done, of course. Like I think this idea we expect perfectionism, and it's like there's nuance. There's things I posted about for. I mean, I've been short form for a while, so like, oh, I wish I would have framed that differently. Oh, I wish I would have let that, especially the current events. Like, oh, I
yeah,
wish
yeah,
I would
yeah,
let that sit for a little bit before I reacted. And I got that a lot when I was as a local organizer, like jumping on the story before getting all the details and stuff. We got to give like the increase the human element. You know what I mean? Because even sanitizer is 99.99, and none of us are even close to
right,
that.
right,
So,
exactly.
and we can't improve and do better unless we open the space up for critique. Because I'm sure if somebody had the chance to ask Ruby Bridges, and I'm not sure if anybody's framed it this way, but I mean, she probably in hindsight would disagree. But it's like it also in a sense, like there are certain things that maybe have had to happen, right? And we
Right.
don't know. We don't know because we don't have that. We can't go back and say, don't do
Yeah,
that.
yeah, but also, I would love to talk to her. Like,
Of
I wanna
course.
pick her brain and how she felt about the situation,
Yeah, man. I mean, it's,
being in it.
the sacrifices that they had to make for us.
Yeah,
I think we got to be really clear too on the sacrifices that we gonna need to make for the
yeah,
next generation, man.
absolutely.
Yeah, but bro,
Absolutely,
we got to do this again, man, for real. Like we
absolutely.
we we said, hey, let's do 30, 40 minutes and
I know. Let me tell you what happened. I looked at that thing, I was like, I knew very, very early on, there was no
I'm
way.
like, yeah.
There was no way.
I gotta, I gotta. I started with 100%, bro. I'm on like 44%, bro. I gotta
I'm so
charge this
sorry.
thing.
I am so sorry. I talked your head off.
Oh
I
no, this
wanna
is
thank
mutual.
everybody who came out, who joined us. I've never had this many people on a live before. Like, and I enjoyed every bit of this. This thing filled my cup.
Same, bro.
Um,
Same.
no, go
Now
ahead.
tell people where to follow you and everything else too, man.
Oh man, if you wanna follow me on Substack, you also catch me on my YouTube channel, One My Black History. But also here, I post a lot here. I post content here. I do articles. I got an article coming out tomorrow about the history of Black folks and rice. It's gonna be very dope. This Saturday, I'm gonna be going live by myself, solo dolo. We're gonna be talking about Black AF history. We're gonna talk about that book. I know the last time
Great book.
it was just me just talking, but it's a very dense book. It is not like a thick read, but it's like a lot
Yeah,
of information
it
here
is. It
that you
is.
can parse out. And I think he's on Substack.
He's
It's
on
crazy.
Substack too, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I've loved his stuff since I used to follow him on Twitter. So
Yes.
it was
Be-
good to have it in a book form. It's a great
Before
writer,
he before he was I knew he had a book. I had saw him on Twitter and he would be like, he'd give you like a novel. Somebody would say
bro.
something spicy and he would be like, "Brr, this is why you wrong." I'm like,
I used to
who is
post his
this?
stuff so much, man. Like, I mean, and I love folks like that because it's coming from the experience of he has
Yeah,
done the work, he's done the research. So that's a great book, man. So make sure y'all definitely join my brother Mike on his live.
yeah,
Make sure you are subscribed to us both because I know we got folks on both sides watching us that might not be aware of our work. So make sure you subscribe. And if you can look, if you can, how people say, give a cup of coffee. If you can give 2 cups of coffee, right?
right.
5 and 5 a month.
Yeah,
We would
yeah, yeah.
appreciate that. If that's not in the budget, trust me, I get it. Can you share the work? Share the work with somebody
Yeah.
because we really
Shares
appreciate.
don't cost anything.
Yeah.
If you like what I do, just share it. I appreciate that the
Yep.
same way as if you spent money on me.
For sure. And shout out to everybody in the chat. I mean, I can't name everybody, but the most recent person I see, I think that says Lefty
Lefty
Professor.
Professor,
Shout
yeah,
out
Lefty
to you.
Professor.
Yeah, come back and we will. Yeah, we gotta do this again, man. This was good.
Absolutely.
This felt
I
good.
love I love this. I enjoyed this greatly, and this really fills up my cup of knowledge, brother. I am so
Yeah.
happy we got to do this.
Likewise, bro. I'll holler at you soon, man. Keep going.
Alright, peace.
Peace, bro.